All right, today we're diving into one of the rarest and honestly, most terrifying diseases out there, fatal familial insomnia. I mean, the name alone sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? But for a handful of families around the world, this is no movie. It's a terrifying, inescapable reality.
So let me ask you this. Really think about it. What if you could never sleep again? And I don't mean like you had a rough night or even a bad week. I'm talking about the absolute, final inability to ever fall asleep again.
Because for these few families, that question, it's not some thought experiment. It's a ticking clock, literally embedded in their DNA. It's a fate they know might just be waiting for them.
So, how does this inherited nightmare even happen? Well, to understand it, we've got to go deep inside the brain, down to the level of the tiny proteins that are going rogue.
So, what exactly is fatal familial insomnia, or FFI for short? First off, you have to understand this isn't a sleep disorder like we usually think of them. Nope, this is a prion disease. Now, what's a prion? The best way to think of it is like a single microscopic zombie protein. It's misfolded, it's broken, and its only mission is to find healthy proteins and corrupt them, forcing them to misfold in the exact same way. It's a devastating chain reaction that just chews through the parts of your brain that control sleep. And yeah, as the name says, it is always, always fatal.
And this disease is unbelievably rare. We're talking, maybe 70 families in the entire world are known to carry the gene for it. Just think about that. 70 families.
Okay, so how does something like this even start? Well, the whole story begins at the most basic level of who we are, our genes.
It all comes down to a single tiny mistake, a mutation in a gene called the PRNP gene. Now, this gene is supposed to be the blueprint for a totally normal, healthy protein. But because of this one little error, it creates a corrupted version. That's our prion. It's like a corrupted file or a bad blueprint that just goes around forcing all the healthy proteins it meets to copy its own messed up fatal shape.
Okay, and this is where the science gets absolutely wild. It turns out that having this mutation is only part one of the story. Which fatal disease you actually get comes down to another single genetic letter on that same gene. If you have the amino acid methionine at that spot, you get FFI. But if you have valine instead, you get a completely different but also fatal prion disease called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's just incredible, isn't it? One tiny little switch determines two completely different and equally tragic fates.
So how does one rogue protein cause such a specific and terrible outcome? Well, it's all about where in the brain it decides to attack.
The bullseye for these prions is a part of the brain called the thalamus. The best way to picture the thalamus is as the gatekeeper for sleep. Every night, it's supposed to swing a gate shut, blocking out sensory information and letting your brain rest. But in FFI, those zombie prions, they just attack and destroy the neurons in the thalamus. The gatekeeper is gone, the gate is broken and stuck wide open. And so, the brain gets trapped in this state of constant fatal wakefulness, a condition called Agrypnia excitata.
So what does that feel like? Well, patients are basically trapped in what's been called a pre-sleep limbo. You know that weird, dreamy, twilight state you're in right as you're about to fall asleep? That's called hypnagogia. Now imagine being stuck there forever, perpetually on the very edge of a sleep that you know will never ever come.
And from that point on, the disease moves forward through 4 just devastating and brutally predictable stages.
The whole decline is terrifyingly fast, usually around 18 months from start to finish. It all begins with insomnia that just gets worse and worse, plus psychological symptoms like panic attacks and paranoia. Then, in the second stage, hallucinations kick in. Their whole autonomic system starts to fail. We're talking racing hearts, constant sweating. By stage 3, sleep is completely gone, total inability to sleep. And that leads to incredibly rapid weight loss. And the final stage is dementia and unresponsiveness, as the brain just completely gives out.
So, with the decline that fast, you have to wonder, how do you even diagnose something this rare? And maybe more importantly, why is it so impossible to treat?
You know, a lot of people ask the obvious question, why not just use powerful sleeping pills? And the simple, tragic answer is, they do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because the problem isn't a chemical imbalance that you can fix with a pill. It's a structural one. Remember, the prions are physically dismantling the brain's sleep machinery. There's literally no off switch left for any medication to hit.
Yeah, so diagnosing FFI is really a puzzle. The only way to be 100% sure is with a genetic test, but other tools like a PET scan are super useful because they can actually show that the thalamus is shutting down. But here's the tricky part. A lot of the usual markers that scream prion disease in a spinal fluid test, they often come back negative for FFI. So if you don't have a known family history, getting a diagnosis can be incredibly difficult.
But even with such a grim picture, researchers and, importantly, these families are absolutely fighting back. So let's end by looking at the search for a cure.
Okay, let's be clear. Right now, as of today, there is no cure. The hard truth is that all treatment is palliative. It's all focused on just managing the awful symptoms and providing as much comfort as humanly possible.
But there is real hope on the horizon. There's a trial underway right now testing if a common antibiotic can delay the disease from ever starting. The most exciting front, though, is in gene silencing therapies, often called ASOs. These are now in human trials. Think of it like this. It's a super smart drug that's designed to find and basically intercept the faulty genetic message before the body can even make that first zombie protein. The goal is to stop the disease before it even has a chance to start. For these families, this isn't just a treatment. It could be a complete game changer.
And that really brings us to the final, incredibly profound question that members of these families have to face every single day. If you knew you had a 50-50 chance of carrying this gene, a guarantee of a fatal illness with until now no cure, would you want to know? Would you get the test? Would you rather live with the certainty or live your life with the uncertainty? It's a question that really gets to the heart of what it means to live and what it means to hope.